Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to be explaining assignment number 12, part A. So if you read Lather and Nothing Else, or Voodoo, or One of These Days, or The Most Dangerous Game, or Spider the Artist, if you read any of these stories, please follow along. If you read one of the other stories, if you read The Cage, or if you read Long Long After School, or if you read Lamb to the Slaughter, please, you don't need to watch the rest of this video. Watch the video for part B. You will not be doing part A, you will be doing part B instead. Okay, so everyone here should be reading one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories. Okay, so what you're going to be doing in this assignment is you're going to be writing 3 paragraphs that answer a question about your story. And the question is going to be about a critical decision made by a key character in your story. So you're going to think critically about this decision, I should say. So that means you have to think, did they make the right decision or did they make the wrong decision? What do you think? So here are your questions. If you read Voodoo, you're going to be answering the question, should Mr. Decker have tricked his wife into harming herself with her voodoo doll? So that might be a little bit hard to understand because it's not fully stated in the text, but if you read between the lines, you'll recognize that Mrs. Decker tries to kill Mr. Decker with the voodoo doll, but he tricks her and gives her some of her own hair, and so she actually kills herself. But was he right to do that? Maybe he didn't fully believe that his wife would die by doing this. He didn't think that there was anything to this voodoo. He thought that this wouldn't happen. But still, he did do this, so should he have done it? And in Lather or Nothing Else, should the barber have killed Captain Torres? So this is sort of the central question of this story, so you have a lot to work with there. The story One of These Days, should the dentist have tortured the mayor? So he didn't have to torture the mayor. He could have treated him like any other patient, but he decided to make his experience very painful because of many of the horrible things the mayor has done. The Most Dangerous Game, should Rainsford have killed Zaroff? So again, it's not fully stated in the text that he does. It's sort of implied. But if you read the last little bit of the text there, it's implied because he sleeps so well in Zaroff's bed that he killed him, and he may have even enjoyed it. So again, Zaroff is kind of like the mayor or Torres. He's a really bad guy, but still, should this person have killed him? And then finally, in Spider the Artist, if you read that story, should Emmy have befriended Udidi? And I apologize if I pronounced those names wrong, but should she have tried to make friends with this thing that was known to most people as a killing machine? Is that kind of right for her to take that kind of risk? Okay, so you're going to be answering these the question that applies to your story. And you're going to have to answer your question in 3 parts. So that's what we said. There's a 3-paragraph answer. So we have your 3 paragraphs here. And I'm just going to explain what you need to do in each paragraph. So in the first paragraph, you're going to explain the context of the question to someone who has never read your work of fiction. So you're going to assume that whoever you are writing these 3 linked paragraphs to, you're writing this to somebody who maybe has never read your story. So if you ask the question, should the barber have killed Captain Torres, for example? This is a really hard question to explain to somebody if you just start answering it. If you just start saying, yes, the barber should have killed Captain Torres because Captain Torres was occupying the town and he was slaughtering rebels left and right. And so you start talking about the answer to this question. If somebody hasn't read this book, they're not going to have any idea, or sorry, if somebody hasn't read your short story, they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about. So you have to explain the context. Explain this to someone who has never read your work of fiction. Who is the barber? Who is Captain Torres, and why would the barber want to kill him? Why might it be a good idea for him to try to kill this guy? Because we don't normally kill people in real life, so why would this even be a question? And that's the same for the others. Why would these even be questions, right? Should Emmy have befriended Udidi? Well, normally it's not a problem to make friends with somebody, so why would that be a problem? You'll have to explain who Emmy is and who Udidi is and what the relationship is to each other and what the relationship is to the wider world around them. Okay, so You're explaining some elements of fiction. You're going to have to talk a little bit about plot, about character, and about conflict and setting so that the reader understands the question. You're going to have to lay out the world that this question takes place in, who the characters are, what's happened between them, and why they might be in conflict. I'm not expecting you to list something from all of these points. I'm just expecting you to write this paragraph in such a way that by the time we get to the end of the paragraph, we should appreciate why you would ask this question. We should know who's involved, and we should know, we might even be able to think a little bit for ourselves about maybe this decision should have been made one way, or maybe the decision should have been made another way. We should understand it. Okay, so that's what you need to do in paragraph 1. In paragraph 2, you're going to look at the answer to this question from the perspective of the actual work of fiction itself that you've looked at. So you're going to look at this in 2 different ways. Why was it logical from the point of view of the character to make the decision that they made? So you're going to look at the actual characters now. You're going to look at Mr. Decker. You're going to look at the barber, the dentist, Rainsford, Amy. You're going to look at the characters that made these decisions, and you're going to ask, why was it logical for them to make that decision? Why did the barber, or what reasons did the barber give for not killing Captain Torres? Why would it be logical for Rainsford to kill Zaroff? Why would it be logical for Emmy to befriend Iditi? You can look at the different pressures that they're facing in their lives. You can look at the struggles they might be involved in. All that sort of thing you can use to explain why it would be logical for them to do what they did. And then secondly, you're going to look at this from a wider sort of perspective. What message is the author trying to send the reader by having his or her characters make the decisions they made? In other words, you're going to be asking why this decision was made, not from the point of view of the character, but from the point of view of the author. The character is fictional. The character is made up. They're not real. So any decisions that they make, the author has decided that they will do that. So why does it make sense for the dentist to torture the mayor? What is the author trying to say by this having this happen in the story? So there might be elements of theme in your answer here. What message is the artist trying to send by having this decision being made the way it is? The fact that Emmy befriends Udide, the fact that they become friends. We can understand from Emmy's perspective why she would want to be friends with the robot, but what message is the author trying to send the rest of the world by having them become friends? In other words, why did they become friends? What message is that supposed to give to us, or what is that supposed to do in the story? Okay, so from 2 different perspectives in this paragraph, you're going to be looking at why is it logical for the character to do what they did if they were, say, a real person, and the fact that they did this thing, how does that contribute to the story, or maybe the message that the story is trying to send? And then finally, in the 3rd paragraph, you are going to evaluate the decision yourself. What is your opinion? If this was real life story, if you were, say, this character, if you were Mr. Decker, if you were the barber, what would you have done? Would you have done the same thing that these characters did in the book, or sorry, in the short story? Or would you have done something different? What do you think should have been done, and why? So again, you're going to write a paragraph about that. So don't answer these questions very simply, like, what is your opinion? I think that the barber should not have killed Captain Torres, period. Right? You have to explain it in depth. So you're going to have to think about what this question is addressing. If you've done a really good job in paragraph 1 and you've set up why this would be an important question, then it should be easy for you to extend into paragraph 3 and see, okay, well, these are all the elements of this question. Here's what I think should have happened in real life. And here you're not going to consider any message or anything like that. You're just going to pretend you are this person. If you had this decision to make, what would you do and why? Okay, so the last thing to consider here is the marking scheme. So you're going to get a mark for your paragraphs demonstrating an understanding of the story and its elements of fiction. So is it very clear that you understand what happened in the story? You understand the different elements of fiction? Again, I'm not expecting you to necessarily list them all in this first paragraph or anything like that, but it should just be obvious to me that you understand what's going on in your story. And you understand how the question applies to the story and why someone might ask it. So you're able to make the connection between the question and your story. Okay, so if I can see, yeah, you know what's going on in the story, you understand the elements of fiction, and that would be a high mark in your knowledge section. For your thinking, your paragraphs are well structured and well organized. Your arguments are insightful and well developed, and you have sufficient support for each argument. So essentially, this is how well do you argue your case, so to speak. And I'm not looking for how you communicate your case. I'm looking at the substance of it. What are you saying? Do you have good arguments? Do you have evidence from the text, or if you're talking about your own opinion, do you have some examples from your own life or some other places that you could draw from? And are you able to take all these things and organize them in a nice way, an organized and structured way? Communication. So this is going to be looking at how well you explain your arguments and how well you explain what's going on in the story. So we're not looking at the substance. We're not looking at what are your arguments. We're looking at how you sort of lay them out. Are they easy to understand? Can people read your first paragraph and understand what's happening in the story? It's not just obvious that you understand it, but if somebody else reads it, can they understand it? And then as usual in application, you're going to have spelling, grammar, use of tense, effective use of transition words where appropriate. So this is somewhat similar to an opinion essay, but it's a little bit different, right? It's not 5 paragraphs. It's not that exact structure. But you might have transition words if you're making multiple points. You might use your first, second, and third. You might use for example. So that's how that's going to be marked. I am going to be also producing my own example, which I will be posting in video form as well as document form as well. So please refer to my own example to get a little bit maybe of a better idea about how to write these paragraphs. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.